it's like, I'll tell you, for Kim's Convenience, I remember, it started off as a play. And even as a play, I wasn't getting paid what I was worth. And this is something that's big in Canada. Artists not being compensated for what they bring to the table and what they're worth, right? We are at a very young, and I truly believe this, and I don't care if I'm pissing off producers or whatever, but it's kind of this whole idea of keep everybody super humble and just grateful that they're working so we can play most favored nations or just say, this is what you're getting. So if you don't want it, somebody else can get it, and they play that power. And so the power of saying no is huge. So we did Kim's Convenience, and it started off as a play, and it was a fringe play first because Ince Choi, who wrote it, shopped it around to all the theater companies in town. They all said, no, we don't want to produce a play about immigrants. We don't see it. It doesn't work for us. And they're just reading the script, not even seeing it. So,
yeah, and to be frank, a lot of people that go to theater in Canada, are older Caucasian people. They're the ones who go to Stratford and the Shaw Festival, and the ones who are like buying season tickets.
We don't see our audiences wanting to support this type thing. And so that's why it became a fringe show. And it becomes a huge hit at the Fringe Festival. Then all these theater companies, they come knocking on the door saying, we would love to present Kim's Convenience on our stages, right? It's that whole, it made money, let's go, like Crazy Rich Asians.
And it ticks a box.
Yeah, boom. So let's do this. So we went, and we ended up going with Soul Pepper Theater Company. Great move, smart move. Soul Pepper, they did a fantastic job promoting the show, building the show, growing the show. But I was getting paid less than $1,000 a week to do that show. And we did like 9 shows a week because they rode that show as much as they could. They sold over $1 million worth of tickets on that show.
And you got paid $9,000?
I got paid $1,000 a week for however long it was. Like, I actually went into debt doing that show because we did a national tour and we have some time, built in there so we could be with our families. But that time built in meant we couldn't get out of the work, right? Because it's like there's no job in the world that's going to be 2 weeks worth. Maybe you book something, but then the schedules change, so you're really out of contention for anything else. And so it's the money that you would save up would be spent in those 2 weeks because you're only making $900 a week. And then, so I went into debt, like serious debt, waiting for this TV show because we knew it was going to be made. And I was like, okay, that's when I get paid. When the show's being made, it's going to be like I'm going to be the lead on the television series.
And who promised you that? Who promised you that you would be the lead on the TV show?
That's the thing. So they, so one of the producers said, at Soul Pepper, we have, we have, it's a favored nations thing. Everybody gets paid the same. And there's a formula that they use. And, it was then, this is back then, this is back in the day. And it was like based on years of service, how many shows or this or that you had. But I was told, like, do you think you're worth more than some of the stalwarts at Soul Pepper Theater Company at the time, right? This person, do you think you're worth more than this person? And that was kind of like, for me, I was like, well, not in a regular show, but I think in a show like Kim's Convenience, this actor can't play this part. That actor can't play this part. But, I'm Canadian. I'm not going to rock the boat. And it was also held as like, well, we can cancel the rest of the tour, and it's going to put all these other people out of work. There are all these different...
They're shaming you. Yeah, they're shaming you.
And so it's like, okay, I guess I'll just do it. But I'll wait. And when it's time for the TV show, gloves come off, and I'm going to get paid, right? And so we, they're making the show. There's nobody else for the part of Appa. There's nobody else. And so I'm in a great position. And the first offer that comes through, $50,000 for 13 episodes.
For the whole show.
For the whole show, $50,000. And I was beyond insulted. I was like, are you kidding me?
And you have to commit your life to this. Like, that's basically your whole year, scheduling. You can't do other things.
And I get the game because that's producers' jobs to try to get you for as cheap as possible, right? But that was borderline like, okay, I know that's more money than I've ever seen before in my life in the theater, like, because I didn't go to Stratford, never went to Shaw. I wasn't in that echelon of actors. But for this particular show, I had a certain set of skills and an intimate knowledge with the character that I helped develop and, in fact, had a huge hand in creating on the stages. There's nobody else. So if you don't want to play with me, then you're screwed in a way. And so obviously we didn't go with that shitty first offer, right? And my agent was like, they always do this. Don't worry about it. We'll get you paid. And so I got more than that. but not like significantly
Not
more.
American money,
No,
where you
not-
would have
not
probably
even-
been making
not even.
100,000 an episode
Yeah,
as
no.
the outright lead in a
Yeah.
hit show like that.
Not even close.
Yeah.
Not even close. That first year, I made 150,000
Yeah.
for that first year of Kim's Convenience, and then after that first season hit,
It's not a lot, man. You're talking about like 10,000 episodes.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's not a
a
lot.
little more than 10,000 per episode.
I know non-actors will be listening to this because we've heard it all.
Yeah.
You know, other actors have come out and, you know, talked about numbers and they'll be like, what are they complaining about? They get
Mm-hmm.
to act. But I trust me, it's not a lot of money. When you hear about the actual numbers people get, it's not a lot of money. I made as much money in Aladdin as I did serving at a restaurant. People think I became a millionaire
Right.
off of that film because it made $1 billion.
Yeah.
And I made just as much money as I did working in downtown Toronto for a full year serving, waiting tables.
Yeah.
So it's all perspective,
Yeah.
right? It's all perspective.
Yeah. And so the comparables, when you look at that too, you're like, okay. So the first year was Gangbusters, right? Award winning, right? And so they come back and they say, okay, well, let's renegotiate. Because it was originally like a 4-year option or something like that. So we'll bump up your pay. We'll double what we're paying you, but you're going to give us 2 more years of control on the back end, right? Like we'll extend your option by 2 years. I thought, yeah, at the time, it was just like we could have just played out the string and kind of gone, no, we'll see what happens in 4 years and then get ready to pay. But it was like that whole trading up in terms of just job security. We knew what was going on. So it was like,
Athletes do the same thing.
Yeah.
So athletes will extend their contracts the minimum amount of years, and they'll get more money because they also don't know. I might get injured. I might, you know what I mean? So it's the same thing with actors.
It represented an amount of stability, financial stability. It was more money than I'd ever seen before. And I wasn't thinking about, well, what are the comparables for the other shows and stuff, right? Wasn't thinking that way. Because I didn't think it was fair at the time to compare myself to the lead in another show, right? Until I found out how much they were making. And I was like, what the fuck? What is wrong with me, right? That was so dumb. But it is, and that's the choice you make, and you kind of go, okay, my family's going to be okay for the next, not for the rest of our lives, but it gave us breathing room, which was great. And but then I'd heard like some of the other cast members had immediately just grabbed that first initial shitty offer, right? And then you kind of go, wow, when you put that into perspective, and it's the same thing. So like for Mandalorian, I made more money doing 2 episodes of that later on, not in season 1. I made no money, or season 2 I made no money. Like I wasn't part of SAG. It was just this other, like, just happy to be there. Happy to be there. But for season 3 of Mandalorian and for Ahsoka and stuff, like I got paid. And it was just like, oh wow. And you know, for Avatar too, like I got paid more money doing less work on one of these shows than I did for the entirety of Kim's Convenience.